Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay in the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack It Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
What is happening tonight, fans? Welcome to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. My name is Jeff Sharon. Joining me tonight, Brian Murphy, filling in for Eric Lopez. Murph, how did you get here? It's your first time co-hosting, and before the show, you're all worried about I don't want to sound like I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm here to tell you it's okay because it's a podcast. We can edit things all over the place, and no one's going to know.
It's not that I haven't been on podcasts before. It's the Skype. I know everyone else is on Skype, and it's very popular, but I'm in the slight minority, the very small minority that has never used Skype. Actually, I haven't used Skype in like 15 years.
I didn't know Skype was 15 years old.
Oh, yeah. Well, maybe I know I used it like in like early, maybe 2003, 2004, so like 13 years, but it's been that long. And I'm like way out of my depth a little bit. And I just want to make sure that I come across okay, and not like the panicked little scared puppy dog.
You sound sound good on my end. I'll tell you that. And at least you don't tell Lopez you sound better than him.
Oh, get out of here!
No, I'm just kidding. So Lopez has the week off. He had to tend to some business, but so we're here. Another big week of UCF sports to talk about. Before we get to that, just a reminder to you, the fans, to hit us up at blackandgoldbanneret.com, where we are continuing to blow the doors off the coverage of UCF football as well as all the other sports as well. We are on Facebook at Black and Gold Banneret as well, facebook.com/Black and Gold Banneret. We are on Twitter at UCF_Banneret, and I am on Twitter at Jeff_Sharon, and Brian is on Twitter at Spokes_Murphy. Is that right, Brian? Spokes_Murphy?
That is correct.
Okay, Spokes_Murphy. And don't forget to, if you don't already, subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and tune in. Tell your friends, leave us a rating on whatever podcast service you enjoy, and you can also send us emails. You can ask the Banneret at blackandgoldbanneret. That's all one word, blackandgoldbanneret at gmail.com. All right, Brian, let's dive into it. Here we go. So UCF football coming off of, boy, that was an impressive win at home against Memphis, 40-13, in a game that, to be honest with you, from the second quarter on, I didn't think it was that close. And we saw, I don't know what you thought about this, but you were there. I saw finally, I was like, wow, okay, this is what Scott Frost UCF looks like. This is baby Oregon at its best. And I was really impressed, obviously, with the speed of the offense, the quick strike, the big play capability. I was really impressed with the defense. That's a good Memphis team with a really hot offense coming in that got held to 13 points, and 6 of them came on the final play of the game. And the nation figured out who Adrian Killens is this past weekend. So let's debrief off of that. You were there. What did you see? What did you feel? I mean, what was your perspective on it? Was it as exciting watching it in the press box as it was for me when I was watching at home?
I don't know if it could be as exciting when you're in the press box, because as Adrian Killens kind of breaks through the hole there and gets to the second level, if you're as a UCF fan, you want to be ecstatic, but you just kind of see him run and go, "Oh wow, look, there he goes!
Wow, he's really fast."
That's wow, and maybe like a slight golf clap in your head. Two things that jump out. One is obviously the speed, and I'm not talking about just Killens, although that play sort of signifies to me how much better this this team is than, dare I say it, any UCF football team I've ever seen in my life or there has ever been.
Hold up a second. Even 2013?
Yes. Yeah. Oh my God.
All right. Make your case.
I will write something on this. I'm not saying that this team is going to win a BCS level New Year's Day type bowl, but I'm saying that this team has more overall talent on both sides of the ball than that 2013 team. Yes. Defensively, what is shocking to me, like you said, Memphis is not a pushover on the offensive side. Riley Ferguson is way good. They have a receiver, Anthony Miller, who broke Isaac Bruce's school records at Memphis, and they absolutely rattled Riley Ferguson after that sack fumble by I think it was Shaquem in the red zone that really turned the game around. After that, they really rattled Ferguson. He was keeping his eyes down. He was really distracted by the rush that UCF was creating. And it's amazing to me. I know that Maryland, rolled out a third string quarterback and Memphis, got, I think, surprised a little bit, but the domination of two really good offenses and two really good ground attacks in which this team took away both the air and the ground while putting up 40 points. I mean, overall, the last two games against Maryland and Memphis have been the most dominating two back-to-back efforts I've ever seen UCF put together.
Well, Eric Shenander, the defensive coordinator, is certainly serving some notice, I think, around the country for how his defense has performed. I found some numbers off the game notes that I just, even looking at them, I can't believe them. UCF, okay, so obviously we're in the top 25 in both the AP and the coaches finally broke in. The Knights are just one of three teams in the nation that are ranked in the top 10 in the nation in FBS in both scoring offense and scoring defense. The other two are Alabama and Washington. Not bad company. UCF is, by the way, 7th in both categories, so this is from the game notes. All three of the Knights' opponents this season, FIU, Maryland, and Memphis, are all undefeated in all their non-UCF games. Each team is 3-1. FIU is off to a 3-1 start. We thought they'd be, and look at what we did to them, 61 points. Boy, I mean, it's starting to, now, okay, so 3-0 are the Knights on the season right now. Now they face a road test, conference road opener at Cincinnati. This game is going to be Saturday, 8 p.m. ESPNU is the television network. Roy Philpott, Tom Ramsey on the call on the U. Cincinnati comes in 2-3 under Luke Fickell. We all recall him from Ohio State. The Bearcats, they've kind of been struggling a little bit. They did defeat Austin Peay in their opener, who, by the way, we're going to get later on in the year as sort of that replacement for the main game that was moved from this past weekend that we got rid of to get Memphis in because of the hurricane and all that. But they lost their conference opener at Navy 42-32, and they're coming off of I think a bad loss against Marshall at home, 38-21. They also lost 36-14 to Michigan. Their only other win was against Miami of Ohio. So yeah, your only two wins are against the MAC team and an FCS team. Hayden Moore, their quarterback, has 9 touchdown passes on the year and 4 interceptions. He's only hitting 52% of his throws for just over 1,000 yards. This game, everyone's going to yell at me about this, and this is why. Because I always come into these games and I'm like, this kind of scares me a little bit. I don't like when we go on the road to play the wounded dog. And Cincinnati kind of looks like a wounded dog right now. Their offense has just been dreadful this season. They're second to last in the American in several key offensive categories. Scoring offense, they're only averaging 22.8 points a game. Scoring defense is 7th. That's middle of the pack in the conference. Total offense, they're second from the bottom at 319 yards a game. Middle of the road total defense, they're giving up 401 yards a game. Bad rushing offense, exactly 100 yards a game. pass offense is okay at 219.4, but the only thing that they have going for them is they actually have the top-rated pass defense in the American right now. They're only giving up 163.4 yards per game through the air, but the problem is they're giving up 237.8 on the ground. And if you look at UCF's offense this year, it has been the ground game that has pushed UCF to the top of the total offense charts in the conference, 539.3 total yards a game. But rushing, UCF is averaging 249.3. So the formula seems a little too straightforward, right? Just run the ball right at the Bearcats, and they're going to fold like a cheap suit. But they know that's coming. So this kind of scares me a little bit. What about you? Taking a look at the Cincinnati team scouting out for the week coming up. Are you seeing the same thing that I'm seeing, or am I missing something here?
Absolutely. I mean, the thing that jumps out at you, or at least jumps out at me, and you touched on it, was the run defense that Cincinnati brings, or lack thereof. It's 120th in the nation, and there's only 129 teams in all of FBS. And I think UCF's going to see that. And we asked Adrian Killens about that in the press conference on Monday about, if you see something like that, a defense that's got that much of a problem stopping the run, do you get kind of excited? And, to their credit, there was no bulletin board material put up. The guys have all been very cliche and on to the next game. We're just trying to play hard, and Cincinnati's a good team, and all that fun stuff that none of us like to hear. But that's going to be a huge deal. I mean, this is going to be a run game, and with all the weapons that UCF can throw out there, now that they're getting, Otis Anderson also mixed in, along with Taj, and obviously with Adrian, who they're trying to get the ball more, that's probably going to decide your game. I think the scariest part is, not just going on the road, but, as much as UCF has talked about this week, not paying attention to being ranked, not caring about being number 25 in the nation, having that number next to your name and the people that are praising you for it and trying to look over the hype, and it's one to say that, and then two to actually go out and prepare and play as if it doesn't matter. Scott Frost has been adamant about it doesn't matter, and that the media is trying to build it up into something that it's not, and we're just playing we're playing one game at a time. Well, we'll see how that looks on Saturday night. But Cincinnati knows UCF's ranked, and you better believe they're going to use that as a tool to get themselves motivated for this game. They have a chance to go in there Saturday night to their own house on campus and knock off a nationally ranked team. I think that's going to give them some extra juice. UCF's got to be ready for that. The night crowds are always more raucous than the noon start crowds. But I think if UCF kind of withstands the first sort of emotional push of the first quarter and plays their ball, and plays their game, I think they'll be just fine. I think they will be really just fine.
Somehow these two teams have managed to avoid each other in the American, despite Cincinnati actually putting together a couple of pretty good seasons not all that long ago. This is the third all-time meeting between UCF and Cincinnati. Cincinnati won the only meeting up in Ohio. That was on Halloween night of 2015, and a scary night it was. UCF losing to the Bearcats 52-7 on that. That was back there in the disaster that was 2015. But the most recent meeting last year, UCF defeated Cincinnati 24-3. That was when the Bearcats were pretty much in a spiral that led to the end of Tommy Tuberville. Tommy Tuberville was like 2015. Luke Fickell obviously was in his first year head coach there because he's in his second year now. Sorry about that, but still, so the series is only tied 1-1, and of course, and still, I don't know. There's something about it's funny how you mentioned the 2013 team, because right before I came on here, for some reason I had YouTube up, and I was. And it was just on shuffle. I had it on the background. And then a quick cut of the Louisville game from 2013 popped up. The one where UCF defeated then number 8 Louisville and sort of was the springboard to the Fiesta Bowl. And I recall, watching Cincinnati in some situations where their crowd at Nippert Stadium could get just as raucous as Louisville's would be at Papa John's. And certainly as much as Louisville's was at that time. And that's what kind of freaked me out a little bit about Cincinnati is like if they get a good crowd, I don't know what kind of a crowd they're going to get because they're coming off that loss to Marshall. They're 2-3. They're heading into the thick of the conference schedule. But I do think that road environment kind of could be a little bit of a factor. UCF has only played, to this point, only one road game, and that was at Maryland, which, Maryland's not exactly known for having the most raucous on-campus environment. Could that be something that could be a little bit more of a test? I'm not so sure. I'm hoping not, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to at least on that sense, that crowd's going to be crazy going on early, and the UCF's going to need to come in and shut them up, hopefully early, by probably pounding the rock with their cavalcade of running backs, and then from there, once you kind of gain control of the momentum of the game and you quiet the crowd, then you can play your game, and it's like every other week. I would say also, just to correct, Luke Fickell is in his first year.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, that's right.
Yeah, so Tuberville resigned in December. But and Scott Frost brought that up about how he sees sort of the similarities of what position he was in last year as a first-year coach, trying to sort of mold the program into his own image, into what he thinks it can be. UC, and as much as UCF does want to talk up about all the cliches about they're a good team and they do this well and they do that well, the Knights know that they should go in here and win by probably double digits. Mm-hmm. Even Scott Frost said in the press conference, that we're kind of getting a lucky break, or we're kind of getting a fortunate break by catching them now, meaning that playing them in this first year with Luke Fickell as he's getting his system underway is probably better than playing him next year when they could look more like UCF looks now, when the image is a clearer picture. But now they're still trying to get sort of get everything straightened away. So really, I mean, you don't want to overlook it, but this is a game, considering the defensive side for Cincinnati, their problems on offense, they have turned the ball over a lot, and UCF leads the entire nation in turnover margin. This is a game that should play right into UCF's hands, but they always say if you let a team that's not as good as you hang around, the longer they hang around, the more confidence they gain, and then it can snowball from there. This is gonna be a game where UCF needs to really grab control of this game by halftime, or else it could get dangerous.
Yeah, well, I mean, Vegas right now is giving UCF, has UCF as a 17-point favorite on the road. I mean, wow, that's a lot. Over under is 55. And so far, the over is this is according to oddshark.com, by the way. This is and 72% of the money so far this week is on UCF minus the 17. And call me a nervous Nelly, do what you will. It opened at 13.5. And it has continued to go up to 17. That's
a quick jump.
Yeah, that frightens the hell out of me.
It's only Wednesday.
Right.
It's only Wednesday. That's a quick jump.
Like, is it going to settle at 17, 17.5? Like, what are we looking at by Saturday? The weather should be okay for game time. 75 degrees. Chance of rain up in Cincinnati. Wind modest, to say the least. But UCF, right now coming in, by the way, this is an interesting little number for you degenerates out there. The Knights are 10-4 in their last 14 games against the number, and 5-2 against the number in their last 7 on the road. So, so that's something to bear in mind. Again, that 17-point number just scares the living daylights out of me at this. So are you thinking that's okay? Let's put you in Vegas, Brian. Are you thinking it's 7? Are you thinking 17 is the right number, or would you be grabbing that plus 17 on Cincinnati?
No, I saw it this morning because I'm putting together the preview article that should be up on the site pretty soon for the game, and it did surprise me. But right now I think I would take I would minus the points. I would actually take UCF to go -7 or -17 because
UCF and lay the points. Okay.
Yes. So I don't know about the over because you could see a game where it's like 38-10 and you're under. So, but if you just consider that, they've blown the doors, and we've already used that expression, I think 3 times in this show, blowing the doors off of Maryland, blowing the doors off of Memphis, who are clearly better teams. And I understand this game's on the road; it's at night. So, really, if it was at UCF, if you consider that if it was at UCF, it would be at least 23. Because that's how home and road goes. It's about a 3-point advantage either way. So if you could see UCF winning by 23 at home here, and I probably could because since they just beat Memphis by 27, I could probably see them going to Cincinnati winning by 17. Yes, it's a clearly inferior team with a lot of problems on both sides of the ball and problems which UCF specializes in taking advantage of. I would feel not overly confident, but if I had to pick, I would lay the points and just take UCF.
So the word on the last word on the game right now, by the way, again, ESPNU 8:00, and a couple of other notes on that as well. UCF is looking to go 4-0 for the first time since 1988. That was when UCF was they were Division II at the time.
Jesus.
Yeah, that's a long time ago. What are you going to say, right? Here it is, actually. Sorry about that. Seeking their first 4-0 start since 1988 when UCF was in Division II. Boy, oh boy. I was 5 years old. I was in kindergarten in upstate New York, so it's been a long time since UCF got off to a 4-0 start. It's the first 3-0 start since the Fiesta Bowl year, 2013. So,
wow.
And also the first time that the Knights have appeared in the top 25 since that time as well. So, again, 8:00 against Cincinnati. And on ESPNU. All right, one quick thing before we take a break. So the Scott Frost panic-o-meter is still fresh in the back of my mind. Lopez sent me before we started recording. He sent me a little bit from the Colin Cowherd show that's on Fox earlier today. Joel Klatt went on and speculated about 3 head coaches to potentially replace Butch Jones at Tennessee. And one of the names he floated, of course, was Scott Frost. I used to like Colin Cowherd a lot. I like him a lot less. He went on to say that UCF is a truck stop, quote, that's a direct quote, truck stop compared to Tennessee, to which I would say, okay, you keep thinking that. I'm still concerned about the whole Nebraska thing. I know everybody else is. Scott Frost, I think, has done a masterful PR job of managing those rumors by simply not addressing them. And this is something that, it's always just going to be in the backs of our minds. So now, looking at college football as you have, because this is our first time that we've had you on the show since we started the season. Let me ask you this: let's say Nebraska decides to let Mike Riley go, and then of course somebody like Butch Jones leaves Tennessee. There's a couple of other obviously coaching jobs that are going to open up that we don't know about just yet. But what would you give the percentage chance that Scott Frost leaves UCF? And what are the big factors that would contribute to that percentage chance going up or down?
I think it depends, obviously, on what job he prefers. I would give a higher percentage chance of him going to Nebraska, obviously, than Tennessee. Right. And let's get it straight. Both Mike Riley and Butch Jones are out at the end of this year, especially Butch Jones. What they did against Georgia was pathetic. So they're both can be gone. I would also it really would, I think, would determine a lot on how successful this season is for UCF. If Scott Frost accomplishes the things that right now this team looks like it can accomplish, and the sky's the limit, and let's say they reach that sky, and really he has nothing else to show, or to accomplish here because he's already reached the mountaintop for what this school can do, at least on the football field. I could see him going if they're really, really successful. Mm-hmm. I think if they falter a little bit, he might see it as a business unfinished type of deal, and I think stick with it. But if they, God forbid me saying this in early October, but run the table, what are we in week 4? If they run the table and get to where they are playing on a New Year's Day bowl, because then I would assume they would be the best of the non-Power 5 conferences, and they win that, I could see him bolting, because what else could he prove at this school? But that would be the big determining factor for me.
Well, yeah, I think it does depend on Lopez, and I have thrown this around as well. It does depend on, does the Nebraska job open up at all, which I think it might, but I'm a little surprised about how quickly they're. Well, actually, I'm not really surprised how quickly they would pull the plug on Mike Riley because it's Nebraska and they think they're better than they are.
Yep.
And far be it from me for as someone to say well, Scott Frost should stay here at UCF because he's here at UCF and the heck with Nebraska. Well, you don't know how important Nebraska is to Scott Frost. That's where he won a national championship. Played for Tom Osborne. He and Osborne are still tight. Frost was on the Jim Rome show earlier today and addressed, talking about, Tom Osborne, and addressed some of those Nebraska rumors. There's actually one other factor that we may have to keep an eye on is Coach Frost and his wife are actually expecting their first child. I think, and if I'm not mistaken, Brian, it's like literally any minute now, right?
Yeah, I heard November, but it could be this month. Well, yeah. So he talked to us right after the hurricane, said she was 8 months pregnant. So that was 3 weeks ago. So you're right. It could be this week. They could be in the air to Cincinnati. Who knows?
And he might be pulling a Memphis and turning right back to Florida, right, as soon as he lands.
Maybe.
And I'm with you, Coach Frost, because my daughter is due at the beginning of November as well. So who knows? Maybe I'll end up running into you at Winnie Pomper. Who knows? But oh gosh, yeah, man, life has a funny way of intervening. All right, so right now we're putting where are we putting the Scott Frost panic-o-meter on a scale of 1 to 10, from 1 being like ironclad he's staying and 10 being he's wearing a Nebraska hat on the sideline?
As of right now, I mean, you can't say that I would say he's 8. He's staying because you just don't know what this season is yet. Yeah. You need to see how this thing plays out. But if, like I said, if they are as successful as we think they can, at the end of the year, if they are as successful as we think they can be, he's going to be gone. I think what the shame of it is that these rumors started picking up as soon as, like, during the Maryland game, like during their second game of the year. We were already talking about, Nebraska's really struggling. I think Nebraska was losing to Rutgers.
Yeah, they were struggling against Rutgers, and then the instant they fired their AD, that was when everything really started going crazy.
So really, we're going to have an entire season here, which could be a really special season in UCF football. But the backstory, in the background will be, by the way, if this team is as good as it can be, that he's probably gone. But right now, you got to say it's high probability he's staying, just because you don't know where they're going to go from here.
Right. Well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to enjoy this ride as much as I can, and we'll leave the speculation for later. So, all right. And by later, I mean next week's show. So, all right. So let's put that one to bed. All right. Stick around. We're going to take a quick break. We come back. We're going to talk basketball season. Can you believe it, man? Already, it's our first show of the month of October. We're going to be talking about basketball. And we're going to catch you up on sports, including a milestone that took place tonight, Brian Murphy. Stick around. The Black and Gold Banneret Podcast is back in a second.
Hello, Night Nation. I'm Andrew Fegley.
And I'm Trey Strelko. Where are we? This isn't our usual spot.
It looks like we've landed in the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of those guys.
You know, Nightline has UCF sports covered.
Week in and week out, we bring you interviews with newsmakers and in-depth analysis of UCF sports.
Subscribe to our weekly podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Be sure to subscribe to Nightline on YouTube, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter at UCF_Nightline.
Trace, can we go back to the 1148 studios now and start working on our next all-new Nightline?
How do we get out of here? Go Knights!
Charge on.
Now back to you guys in the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast.
And welcome back to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon, Brian Murphy here with you, sitting in for Elo. We've got, all right, so Brian, unbelievable. We're in our first show in October, and it's basketball season. First practice for men's for both sports, actually, for both women's and men's basketball underway. You were at practice earlier today and caught up with the guys coming off the NIT semifinal season last year, Johnny Dawkins' first year. What is the new car smell this year with UCF men's basketball? What's new? What's interesting based on what little information that we know right now other than, hey, we're practicing now?
Yeah, I think what's interesting is the expectations for this team should be pretty high, given that, other than Matt Williams, who is in the D-League, and Tank Effiani, this team brings a lot of starters back. You've got, you've got Taco Fall, A.J. Davis, B.J. Taylor, and all these guys working under Johnny Dawkins for yet another season. They have brought in a lot of outside foreign recruits that they can help. But I think the one thing right now is just sort of getting back into shape. We asked at the press conference about, if they had certain goals that they wanted to meet as a team or personally. They said they wanted to keep those to themselves. So, okay, that's fine. We asked, Johnny Dawkins what would be a successful season this year. And he said, and he gave us kind of a cliche of just playing the ball we know we can play, but also what would be most successful is that if they can just stay healthy, which is always difficult. But we'll see. I think just because this team has so much more experience coming back from last year's NIT semifinal team and the new guys they've brought in, there is a lot of optimism here.
Now, what I saw that was most interesting was Taco Fall. UCF sent out a tweet. It was yesterday, Tuesday, October the 3rd. And last year, Taco was at they showed a picture of him. He was at 285 pounds with 13% body fat. Then they showed a picture of him this year. 295 pounds. He's gained 10 pounds, but he's dropped his body fat by 3.5%. He's at 9.5%. And he looks like they showed a picture, strangely enough, of his back, and he looks like his back is completely ripped. And this is a 7'6" guy. So I look at the team, and I'm like, all right, we know what we're going to get with B.J. Taylor. B.J. Taylor, by the way, heading into last year, I noted particularly how much in better shape he looked, from one year to the next. Taco Fall, I think they've done the same thing. And it's important for him because, 7'6" guy, you're always worried about him kind of getting tossed around by somebody who's just got, a larger amount of muscle mass than him. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering if that period of time he spent where he was flirting with the NBA, where he declared his eligibility but ended up, coming back to college and going through the evaluation process, if that did not give him like a really good game plan for getting ready for this year. Because, it's all about the weight room, right? What are you going to do? How are you going to get better? And part of that, of course, is growing up. I mean, you hit 20, 21 years old. Your body is going to change. But in particular for him at 7'6", I mean, that's something that you're going to be keeping a close eye on. And then the other thing I'm excited about is Aubrey Dawkins. And there's been a slow trickle of video coming out of practice of Aubrey Dawkins laying waste to whoever is guarding him. And, obviously it's practice. I get it. But I'm excited for those two things. I'm excited to see what Aubrey Dawkins is able to do because we know how talented that he was coming out. And then, what does this version of Taco Fall look like?
Right. And I think Aubrey, possibly the best transfer UCF has ever had. We will see what happens on the court, but as far as upside, he could fit that role. And I think the main thing this team needs to answer on the court is, outside of Taco, which I'll get to in a minute, is how do you sort of replace Matt Williams' outside sharpshooting, knowing that you can't fully replace what he did because you're not going to have a record setter come in every year. Maybe Dawkins can do a little bit of that in a very short amount of time. He did hit over 40% of his threes at Michigan. But we will see. Maybe it's just more of a committee role where more guys need to test their game out on the perimeter. To that point, I would not say that Taco Fall is going to be shooting threes, but we did see him. We did see him in practice more by like the elbow, just outside the paint, taking some shots, which was nice. Like to see him move away from the basket a little more. I think obviously the two questions about his game are obviously can he score offensively, and like you said, the physicality. Will he be pushed around by guys at the next level with his weight? We know he's going to be a great rim protector. We know he's going to be a great paint guy, but he needs to find other ways to score. I think they're trying to work on that really hard, and then they're trying to toughen him up. And hopefully you're correct that this process has given him a new outlook and a new toughness. We can't wait to see it, and it starts in about 5 weeks.
Yep, Friday, November 10th, against an old foe, the Mercer Bears. Yes. Old A-Sun foe. By the way, two A-Sun throwback games in the first two for UCF men's basketball, because they're playing Gardner-Webb on November the 15th. I remember we beat Gardner-Webb in the A-Sun championship, and our last game as an A-Sun team back in 2005. That was in Nashville at Belmont University when we won the second of two consecutive A-Sun championships on our way out the door, and I was there for that one, and I still have my recording of my play-by-play from that game. So
how about that? And then they went to the tournament and gave Connecticut quite a run.
I know. We fell down big time, but really made Connecticut sweat in the last couple of minutes. That was in Worcester, Mass. And I don't think the NCAA tournament has been back to Worcester, Mass since, and I remember because it was terrible to travel to. But anyway, so that's UCF men's basketball. By the way, UCF women's basketball also practice underway. They're playing Mercer as well at 5:30 p.m. on that Friday, November 10th. So we got a doubleheader of basketball to kick off the season against Mercer. The women at 5:30. And the men at 8. That's on Friday, November the 10th, just a little bit more than a month away. So, all right. Moving right along, let's take a look at some sports that are actually competing right now. And I want to give some love to the cross-country team because they never get enough love. And they had a great weekend in Lakeland over the weekend. Some drizzly weather, but all 8 UCF runners finished in the top 15 at the Florida Runners Invitational in Lakeland. UCF finished first out of all the 3 Division I teams. Kaylee Forrester was the top performer for UCF, 1945.6 in the 5K. I'm just happy if I can break 30 minutes. So congrats to UCF cross country. They've got what's their next event here? They have so that's actually this coming Friday in Buena Vista, Florida. Yeah, over at the Disney Invitational. It's a 2-day event, Friday and Saturday, over at Disney. So that's something to look forward to. By the way, then after that they have the USF Invitational in Tampa, and then it's American Athletic Conference Championship time at the end of this month. Saturday, October 28th. So that's an update on cross country. Best of luck to the team coming up this week down at Disney. Soccer, we got some big news to pass along. At long last, on Wednesday, October the 4th, Brian Murphy, the UCF men's soccer team played its home opener. And they got a resounding 4-0 victory over our old foes from Stetson.
Fantastic.
So UCF, off to the schedule has just been just a disaster for UCF. Considering that they've had 3 matches canceled due to weather, including 2 projected home openers. They're finally had their first. It's the first home win for Scott Calabrese. So congrats to Coach Calabrese on that. UCF is now 2-5-1 on the season, but they beat a Stetson team that came in 5-4. So Cal Jennings scored a pair of goals, both of them within 2.5 minutes of each other in the first half. Matias Puzzolo picked up his 6th tally of the year. Jennings had the assist on that one. And then Puzzolo had the assist to Ricardo Oliveros, his first goal of the season. So that was the scoring for UCF in that one against Stetson. 4-0 the final for UCF. And just like that, UCF is 2-5-1, like we said right now. And don't get panicked when you look at that, right now, because obviously, remember, the conference schedule is rather abbreviated. UCF only has 5 conference games to go in the season. Tulsa, at UConn, home for Memphis, home for Tulsa, at UConn, home for Temple, at Cincinnati. The Knights got off to they're 0-2 in the league so far. They had that 3-2 double overtime heartbreaker down in Tampa that they came back and then USF came back and then the Knights came up short this past weekend at SMU out in Dallas 2-1. But off the schneid with the 4-0 win over Stetson. Now they turn their attention to Memphis this Saturday at 7:00. That'll be on UCFKnights.tv. UCF at home for Memphis. But if you can't come on out for the home opener because that should be it should be fun to watch. And get a load of Scott Calabrese in his first year over at UCF as well. So, and by the way, I just wanted to bring this up because we talk about the standings all the time. Men's soccer. In one weekend, you can shoot up the standings because there's so few teams that are competing right now. USF and UConn are tied at 2-0. UCF and Cincinnati are 0-2. But 2 wins and bang, you're at 500. So that's something to watch out for there. Women's soccer. Oh, go ahead, Brian. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to add. In the last 7 games for men's soccer, either they lose really tightly, like their losses have all been 1-goal losses, which I know in soccer, 1-goal losses are common. They lose really tightly, tie, or win by 4. So if they win, it's a great night, and if they lose, it's a nail biter. So the 2-5 record is sort of not indicative of how this team has played.
Yeah, and that was something that happened last year too, because they suffered so many close losses, basically 1-goal games, and like you said, that's part of the game, but. Sometimes that could be a coin flip. A deflection here. A card here. You never know how it can work out. So, if they're able to catch a couple breaks in this schedule, and if you can if you can beat Memphis and beat Tulsa, that right there, that's 2 1-1 teams that you're sending down to 1-3, and then you're at 500. So you could go from, tied for last in the conference, all of a sudden to the top third of the league, if depending on how things work out, if that happens. So, again, this is a big home weekend for UCF men's soccer coming up with, or a big two weekends rather coming up because they're playing Tulsa on Sunday, October 15th. Saturday, of course, October 7th, that Memphis game. Over to women's soccer. What a weekend for them, Brian, because they had Tulsa and Memphis at home. And Lopez and I talked about this. I was a little worried about this weekend because it's conference. They always look forward to Memphis because Memphis is a rival team. Those two, UCF and Memphis and women's soccer, have gone at it the last decade, really. And I was worried that UCF would be looking past Tulsa, who they were playing on Thursday night. Well, I needn't have worried because they scored 6 goals on Tulsa on Thursday night, beat them 6-1. And then dropped 5 more on Memphis on Sunday afternoon. So UCF in their 4 conference matches are unbeaten, 3-0-1, and they have outscored opponents 15-1 in their first 4 matches in the conference season. Right now, they are 5th in the RPI in the country, 5th, behind number 1 South Carolina, Stanford, North Carolina, and Duke, just ahead of Princeton, West Virginia, Texas, UCLA, Tennessee to round out the top 10. 5th in the RPI. They are and actually just this week in the United Soccer coaches poll, the Knights are in the top 10 for the first time this season. They jumped up 3 spots, with Penn State, dropping from 6th to 14th. Quite a few teams moved up, one of them being UCF. The Knights are in the top 10. They're number 10 in the country in the coaches poll. UCLA right now number 1, and a former UCF coach, Amanda Cromwell, right there. They have 22 first-place votes. Stanford is 2, South Carolina 3, who UCF played earlier this year and lost to in the opener. Played them tough 2-0 back in that opener. Duke is 4th. North Carolina, by the way, is 5th in the poll, and that's who UCF beat. We're one of their 2 losses on the year. UCF right now at 7-1-1. That one tie coming, of course, to Cincinnati a couple weeks back, but in that conference opener. But here's the slate for UCF women's soccer coming up tomorrow. This would be Thursday, October the 5th. They are on the road. They're doing the Texas trip, so they're at Houston Thursday at 8:00, and then they go to Dallas and they face SMU Sunday at 2 p.m. And you can watch both those matches on UCF. There's links to them on UCFKnights.com. They're streamed live on the respective schools' websites, Houston and SMU. But those are 2 key games on the road, and I'm really curious to see how UCF shapes up against Houston and SMU. As I'm looking at the standings right now, Houston 5-4-1 and 1-1 in the league. SMU 5-3-3, but 0-1-1 in the league. And see, there's that wounded dog thing I keep getting worried about with SMU. Just kind of winless in conference despite 5 wins on the season overall. It just scares the daylights out of me. By the way, Cincinnati, who tied us, they're 3-0-1 in the league, 9-1-2 overall. So Cincinnati's doing pretty good for themselves. Can't take anything away from them. They're currently ranked number 22 in the United Soccer coaches. And I'm just quickly pulling up the RPI here because I wanted to check where they are in the RPI. They're 11th in the RPI. So yeah. So wow, Cincinnati. It's a 2-horse race between Cincinnati and UCF right now, at least as it looks right now. But boy, is UCF women's soccer off to a great start with that 14-1 advantage over their opponents. Actually, and because it was a scoreless tie against Cincinnati, that's actually the last 3 matches. UCF has won by a combined 15-1 total. So,
and Jeff, I remember talking to you about women's soccer in the preseason. Actually, I think I talked to you the night of the North Carolina game.
Right.
And you told me then, that day, how good this team can be. But I know you know this program well. Do people in the program think it could be this good this year? And if not, was the North Carolina win sort of the catapult to where this team really believed that it could be great?
I think it's kind of one of those things where they knew the team was good, but they were going to find out how good they were that night against North Carolina. I think that road game against South Carolina and then the home game against North Carolina. And that opener against the Gamecocks, you kind of saw some flashes of it. South Carolina got up early, but we took a little while to get our feet underneath us. And then they kind of got a late goal, but we were in that game. We were in that game the entire time. The North Carolina game was a real gut check because we were down in that game. Mm-hmm. Tied it, forced OT, won the game in double OT. And what that does for your confidence is just, I think it's immeasurable. So when you play with confidence, not just that, but you have the ability. Looking at the numbers right now, for UCF. It's really been just a smorgasbord of scoring for everybody. Morgan Ferrara right now leads the team in goals with 7, but Dina Orshman has been a revelation, and she kind of joined the team a little bit late because she was playing in, I think, the under-19s. I think it's the under-19 World Cup, but Dina is a freshman. She's from Berlin. And she has just been an absolute revelation for UCF in terms of, the scoring that she's been able to provide. She's got 5 goals on the season. That's good enough for second on the team. She's taken 27 shots. That's the most on UCF. So she's getting some opportunities. You got a couple of vets like Kayla Adamek and Christine Creighton who are also taking on some of the goal load. But really, those 2 players, Morgan Ferrara and Dina Orshman, have really been doing a fantastic job with the scoring load. And it's been, and let's not forget about the defense that they've been playing as well in front of Vera Varis and Chloe Ngazi. So, pretty remarkable that that both Vera and Chloe have seen significant action. Chloe has played in 7 of the 9 games. Vera's, of course, played all 9. But right now UCF as a team averaging 0.64 goals against, and Vera's been giving up only 2 goals in 530 minutes of play. So that'll give you an idea of not just how good she's been, but how good the team has been in front of her. So. Big road test this weekend coming up against a couple of pretty decent teams, and again, it'll just bring the picture into focus just a little bit more, right?
And then after that, there's another mighty non-conference game at LSU, who's a top 20 RPI team, and Baton Rouge.
Yeah, and then that's going to be an interesting one because like you said, that's going to help out that a win there. And you're boosting your RPI again, coming home for those last 3 matches at home against UConn, Temple, USF, and if you can get in those last 4 matches, let's not discount the 2 matches coming up this weekend. But here they are, with 6 games to go in the year, 3 in a row on the road, including that final road contest at LSU, and then 3 in a row at home against the Northeastern schools, UConn, Temple. And then rivalry weekend against USF to wrap up the year. And then you're looking at, possible seeding for the American Athletic Conference Championship. What does Cincinnati do? Remember, the championship is hosted by the number 1 seed. So they don't determine who's hosting the soccer tournament until basically all the games are finished. So that's going to be something that to keep an eye on. And I know that UCF would love to host and take care of business either way as they get ready for and then after that it's selection time because first weekend in November is that conference tournament, so it's coming up quick. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. We'll see how UCF's RPI goes and see how Tiffany Roberts' Haydock squad does out in the Lone Star State. Lastly, before we go, I wanted to catch up with volleyball. They are 9-7 on the year right now, coming off of a pair of really tough road matches, but went to Memphis, won in 5 sets, and that was a big win for UCF on the road. They really needed that one because, coming off of what Cincinnati was able to do at home. Memphis 7-9, 0-4 in the league right now, but still, in this league, a road match is, road matches are road matches, right? I mean, you got to. It's going to be tough either way. And UCF wins at the Tigers in 5, 15-7 in the 5th. Leaders for UCF, Christina Fisher, breakout 20-kill performance for the freshman. Huge offensive performance for her. Kia Bright just continues to be Kia Bright, 17 kills, 27 digs to lead the team. Jordan Pingle, who's the defensive specialist, had 22. But, I mean, a 17-27. I mean, Kia Bright she's the MVP, man. What a season she's having. And they broke out Erin Olsen. She had 3 aces. She had 3 aces in the setter spot. and 55 assists for Aaron Olson. So wow. I mean, that's a heck of a performance for UCF there. Didn't see. Yeah, so Miranda Watkins did not play in that match. So don't know what happened with Miranda, but yeah, they had to unleash Aaron Olson at that setter spot to sort of set up the offense. And boy, did she ever 55 assists in that match against the Memphis Tigers. Then it was time for the big road test that we knew was coming last Sunday at number 25 Wichita State. Wichita State coming in, obviously the favorite in the American in volleyball in their first year, because Wichita's an excellent volleyball program. We talked about that before. And the Knights in that match won the first, but then Wichita State figured it out and won the last three sets. So 3-1 the final there. Wichita, by the way, 12-3, 4-0 in the league. They are tied with SMU for first place. SMU's 10-5 overall. UCF right now at 2-2. Tied for fifth with East Carolina and UConn. But back to that Wichita State match, again, Kia Bright doing Kia Bright things. But she had 13 kills in the match, but didn't figure into having overly that many digs. Alex Fisher came in and kind of spelled Aaron Olson a little bit at the setter position. Taylor Wickey had 5 blocks in this game. So did Anne-Marie Watson, but in the end, it was too much. Wichita State, Alex Kuhn had 12 kills for the Shockers, and so they were able to knock off UCF in 4. So here's where UCF volleyball stands right now. So the key thing this week, Brian, is that UCF women's volleyball, the NCAA released the first RPI of the season. They wait till October to release the first RPI, and that's the thing that the coaches are always taking a look at. Right now, UCF is 89th in the RPI, which is not exactly where I'm sure Coach Todd Dagenais wants to be, but let's consider you have SMU right now at 77. And Wichita is at 23. All right, so those are if I'm looking at the American Athletic Conference, all right, you got Wichita 23, SMU 77, UCF 89. So we have the third highest RPI in the league. Now the question becomes, all right, what do we do the rest of the season? Now they have coming up, I got the schedule here, they're on the road again this weekend. They're at Tulsa, and then at SMU, kind of that weird road schedule. But at Tulsa 7-9, 1-3, and then you get that big SMU match, 4-0, 10-5, of course. If you can get now, obviously, don't want to count your chickens before they've hatched. But if you can beat Tulsa, send them to 1-4, then you're above 500. At 3-2, you got your 10th win of the year. Then you're heading into SMU, by the way, who would be heading into that match just over 10 wins. And if you can go into Dallas and knock off the Mustangs, now you're coming home at 11-7 and 4-2 in the league for UConn and Temple at home. So I think that this is a big road weekend for UCF volleyball, and they have the chance to really vault themselves back into the conference race. And getting that win over SMU. Like I said, 77 in the RPI, that could help you out big time, at least at this point.
Yeah, and like I said, it's still early, in the conference season. And after that SMU game, those 2 home games are extremely winnable. Yeah. And you talk about winning maybe 3 out of 4 there, hopefully 4 out of 4. But if you just do that, you're right back in the thick of things in this conference. There's not a lot of separation once you get past Wichita State and SMU. There's not a lot of separation at all with these other teams.
And one of the other things is because remember, volleyball is the one sport where everybody plays each other twice, home and home. Mm-hmm. So you got one more shot at Wichita on October 27th. That's a Friday for Volleyball 10, and obviously they'll most likely be ranked at that point, still, but their RPI will be high enough where, if you knock them off at home, that can really boost your number. So I think that, in the back of Coach Dagenet's mind, he's going to tell you that I am laser focused on the only thing that's right in front of me right now. And well, of course he is. Every coach is. But I think when you look at that schedule, that's one where I would kind of be like, okay, let's win the matches, all the matches that we're supposed to, and then that's going to be the big coming out party. You could get a good crowd for that match, and that could be a lot of fun. Wichita State, by the way, in the latest poll is 24th, so they moved up a spot. Colorado jumped into the top 25. Your top 5 nationally, by the way, the usual suspects. Number 1, Florida. They're 11-0. Stanford 2, Penn State 3, Nebraska 4, Texas 5. So, and by the way, Nebraska jumped 4 spots in the latest AVCA coaches poll from 8 to 4 because Washington fell down 3 spots. They were 6. They dropped down to 9th. And Minnesota also dropped 3 spots from 3 to 6. So some movement in the top of the polls. In the coaches polls, if you're keeping an eye on volleyball, as I do, and so, but yeah, I mean that volleyball match against Wichita State, man, that's going to be fun. That could be really, really exciting. So, all right, so that'll do it for volleyball. We got you all caught up. All right, Brian, what do you have coming up this week? I know we're going to be getting ready for that Cincinnati game on Saturday night. We're going to be live blogging again. You're going to be having your cram session preview coming up. Is that right?
That is coming up. That will be on. It's Wednesday night when we're recording this. That is coming up. I would say before the night is over. So if you're listening to this on Thursday, check the site because it's on there.
Right.
It'll definitely be up by Thursday, no doubt.
By the way, now I love it because I first of all, you do such a great job with those, and of course I can say that because I read them all the time, and it's on our site, but. On Twitter, I got an interesting note from somebody from actually I think it was a Memphis fan. Did you see that one?
I did not.
Okay, so they said actually is a pretty balanced preview aside from the illegal hit from that Memphis game that we won on that on the kickoff return fumble.
Fantastic.
Which
I mean,
I'll take.
My defense was that was
a Memphis fan, by the way. I have to clarify. That was a Memphis.
Yeah,
fan.
that was a Memphis fan, and that game was last year. I wasn't even in Florida yet. I didn't see I don't know. I would just Well,
they didn't say. Well, first of all, no. Okay, I want to go there. It's not. It wasn't an illegal hit.
No, it wasn't.
Who said? I mean, there was even another Memphis fan that called the guy out on Twitter. So they're like, "Dude, I mean, I'm a Tiger fan, and that wasn't an illegal hit. He got popped and lost the ball. I mean, come on, man. And that was the key play. That was the key play of that game from a few years back.
Yeah, and you can go. Anybody can go on YouTube and see it. If you put in like Memphis UCF football, it's like the 8th or 9th video down. And I'm watching it as we speak to confirm that no, not an illegal hit. An amazing hit by Isaiah Stanback.
Yeah, and wow, I mean, what a and that was another sort of jump start right there. So all right, but anyway, So that's what we got coming up. And yes, like I said, don't forget the live blog that we're going to have all throughout the game on Saturday. Just keeping track of things for you. We've had a lot of fun doing it the first 3 games, and unfortunately, none of us can make it up to Cincinnati for the game, but we'll be watching right along with you, and reacting to it, and keeping an eye on the reaction, the live stats, and our own reactions from the entire game as well. And we'll have our Sunday morning quarterback column as well. I'll be coming out with that the following morning after the game too. So keep an eye out for that. And also, don't forget to continue to follow us at blackandgoldbanneret.com. Email us at blackandgoldbanneret@gmail.com. And follow us on Facebook And on Twitter, by the way, our Twitter handle is UCF_Banneret. My Twitter handle is Jeff_Sharon. Brian's Twitter handle is
Spokes_Murphy.
All right. And, of course, Eric is at Eric Lopez Elo. And don't forget to subscribe to this podcast and tell your friends, if you haven't already, on iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and TuneIn. Brian, thanks for sitting in with me tonight, and I'll catch you a little bit later this week, all right?
Thanks, Jeff.
All right. Thank you, Brian, and thank you, the listeners, for hanging with us here on the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. We will catch you on our live blog Saturday night, UCF against Cincinnati. Until then, go Knights and charge on.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.